Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by TheLines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander and Nate and I are going to be recording separately. So we're going to get into Nate's pick here in just a minute. This is going to be the player props episode that we have up for you each and every day. Also have best bets up with some sides and totals for you in a separate episode, bringing both of those to you each and every weekday this season. So make sure to subscribe to that page and continue to follow along with us. Let's go ahead and get right into Nate's first player prop here to close the work week with you guys.
Yeah, certainly if I like some points to be scored in Philly tonight, it's going to come on the back of Tyrese Maxey. So over 34.5 points and assists is a pretty good number. Something he's actually gone over in 5 straight at home and 6 straight without Embiid at home. If you exclude games against the Orlando Magic, as we often do here, Orlando just fantastic, limiting the point guard. Cleveland actually the worst team in the league in terms of points per game to the point guard. 4th most 3-pointers allowed, and their 3-point defense has become worse in general since losing Mobley. These last 4 games, they are 8th worst guarding the 3. They are 24th overall in defensive rating. Maxey, it's just been on his shoulders, like I said, with Embiid clearly not going to be out there much in the next couple weeks, months, who knows. Paul George has yet to find the fountain of youth, and several other guys out. Recently, he's posted a 34% usage rate, Maxey, getting 30.5 points per game, 7.5 assists on 10.5 potentials. That's the 5th most passes in the NBA per game. Also hosting 10.8 threes. That number does go up at home in terms of the volume, 11.2 threes attempted versus 9.5 on the road. And 12 of his last 18 appearances have been on the road. So now we come back home where, like I said, he's averaging nearly 40 PA and an elevated usage rate recently. So he's certainly going to have the volume. It's really a volume bet more than anything. And the fact that the opponent is vulnerable there, but also is just such a high-powered offense. And the Cavs are actually playing at a 101 pace on the road in January. Like I said, they're 120 offense, 119 defensive rating. So that's why I like points on both sides here. I like Maxey as a potential ladder option here to get 30 plus. I mean, that's pretty much his core prop in terms of the points, but maybe to get 35 plus and maybe to be a dance partner in a parlay. 25 plus is a very nice conservative leg for a parlay that I would consider with like Darius Garland assists, Jared Allen rebounds, or double-double in this one.
My first look here for player props is going to be Mark Will. Got to talk about Mark Williams at the very least. Now, he doesn't have props up, and we're still waiting on injury reports and all the rotational news, but we also know LaMelo Ball is questionable, Miles Bridges is questionable, and Brandon Miller is now officially out probably for the season, it looks like, with a torn ligament in his wrist, which sucks because he was really starting to trend upward, obviously, in his second season of the league. But that doesn't suck for Mark Will too much, to be honest. I mean, he's just going to have more shots, and he's probably going to be the focal point of this offense today. There's no lines up for him because it's too important that Miles Bridges and LaMelo Ball are questionable. You need to know if they're going to play before you could probably put out adequate lines for Mark Williams. Even though I'm going to call the books cowards, I understand it. So I'm going to take him up to about 17.5 points. I think we'll probably get this open at about 16.5. Obviously, depending on what happens with Bridges and LaMelo, we could see this higher, but I think 16 to 17.5 is where this will open for Mark Will. And I would take, without both those guys, for sure, over 17.5. Honestly, without one of those guys, between Bridges and Ball out, I'm taking over on Mark Will up to 17.5 points. He is going to be facing the Trailblazers. He's going to be facing Donovan Clingan. There's not going to be any DeAndre Ayton out there, which honestly, I kind of wish there was because he's probably more of a traffic cone than is Donovan Clingan down low. But either way, they've both helped the Portland Trailblazers accrue the worst field goal percentage at the rim for their defense on defense, right, against their opponents. So with that in mind, we got to look at how many shots we think Mark Will is going to take. Well, if we look at him in the last 4 games, and he's been playing with Bridges and LaMelo, just without Nick Richards, obviously, who's in Phoenix now. In those last 4 games, 25 points, 13.5 boards, 3 assists per game. He's looking at 33 minutes as well in that time frame. One of those games, he actually got into foul trouble against Dallas. He only played 30 minutes, few less than he normally would because he had the 3 fouls in the first half and then picked up a 4th in the second half, but only ended with 4. So did a really great job mitigating the disaster there, ended with 13 and 13. So if you want to add the boards as well, I'm totally fine with it. I think these boards are probably going to open at about 12.5. We're probably going to see this about 29.5 PR for Mark Williams. Getting a little bit dicey, and I love the points for him a ton because I think if you look at the field goal attempts, he's been at 16 field goal attempts in the last 4 games with LaMelo Ball playing. So I got to imagine that a guy who loves to shoot as much LaMelo, that's going to be another 3 to 4 shot attempts for Mark Will in this one. We should be seeing him close to 20 attempts down low. They're going to play through him. It's not like they're going to have a cavalcade of shooters out there that are going to be able to handle things. We're going to see Micic feed him. We're going to see Seth Curry out there drawing the defense. And then we're going to see some Nick Smith Jr. drawing the defense and breaking them down off the dribble as well. So they're going to have some options, and they're going to be probably about as good as this Portland team and what they're going to throw out there in this game. So I'm happy to take Mark Will. I think his minutes are safe even in a blowout. That the Hornets aren't going to have enough guys to fill an entire roster. So he'll get plenty of time. He'll get plenty of usage on offense as well. And he should be good for close to 20 points, if not more tonight.
Yeah, going back to Trey Murphy, who I will just take the points this time, 23.5 points rather than messing with the RA. You need about 10 more or 9 more to get over the PRA altogether, but should be plenty of points in this one. I mean, it's a 244 total that's been climbing from opening at 240. People cannot get enough of Memphis overs for good reason. They play very fast. They don't necessarily guard the 3-point line, especially above the break threes, which is why Trey's been able to average 28 in 2 meetings with them this season, despite just going 7 for 20 for 3. And he's averaging 26 since he returned from a little injury absence, despite shooting 33% from 3. So, I mean, he's an elite 3-point shooter. Don't make no mistake. I think he went 5 for 12 last time out against Utah. So the basket's looking a little bit bigger, a little bit of extra rest for Nola after the snow messed up their last game. In general, I mean, no Zion, but in general, Trey Murphy has been a really elevated usage rate this year, 23.5% compared to 18.5% last year. And I think that's just like Brandon Ingram on ice on the trading block. New Orleans really looking to move on from Ingram and make Trey the 3 of the future for them. No pun there. 91% free throw shooter, one of the best in the league. And he's been one of the most efficient guys in the league since his return. Driving to either draw free throws, 4 free throw attempts on 9.5 drives is absolute elite ratio, or scoring, pretty much a point per drive every time he goes to the basket. So I know Memphis is pretty good. In fact, great guarding the rim, but they've had trouble stopping him, and they've had trouble stopping CJ McCollum. So I think both those guys are going to find some success. They can't really key in on either one of them. And a volume play in terms of pace here, because the last meeting was a 108 pace. That's up there with the fastest games played in the NBA this season. And if there's 108 possessions, Trey scoring 30 per 100 possessions, and he's playing nearly the entire game. Young, fit, and ready to battle the elite teams in the NBA. He's gone over his PRA against the Celtics and Mavs, and in fast-paced games against Chicago recently. Didn't necessarily have to do as much heavy lifting in back-to-back against Utah before this little mini break. But this time out, I mean, yeah, you're going to have to score to keep pace with this Memphis team, so I like him to get some buckets.
Final player prop that we're going with here is going to be Kelly Oubre, Tsunami Poppy. Going to take him over 13.5 points. That should be available to everybody as soon as you're seeing this episode. But Kelly Oubre is going to be playing, obviously, without everybody here for the Philadelphia 76ers. We're talking about no Drummond, no Embiid. You guys probably already know by now. No KJ Martin, no Caleb Martin, no Kyle Lowry, no Jared McCain. Just everybody who's been playing for this team at some point is out, except for, obviously, Yabu. Now we've got Kelly, and we've got Maxey and PG. That's really going to be who we're looking at here, with some Ricky Council and Eric Gordon mixed in. But there's going to be plenty of opportunity for a guy like Kelly Oubre, who's playing all off ball. I mean, always, but especially when he's playing with PG and Maxey, he's going to be the spot up guy in the corner. So I do think PG or Maxey assists are probably a look in this game. I just don't know which one, to be honest. And both of them really take the ball out of the other's hands and don't really, it really just means one of them is going to hit their assist prop. And I just don't know which one it is. But I do know that Kelly's going to be good for some points. And 13.5 is just a little bit low for a guy who's averaging about 16.5 points per game when there is no Drummond or Embiid out there, or Jared McCain as well. And obviously McCain's going to be a big reason that he steps up and does more. The lack of Caleb Martin and KJ Martin is another reason. So if you wanted to take the rebounds and add them to it, I'm okay with it. I wish I could get it at 5.5, but 6.5 boards for Oubre just means the value's gone. I think he's highly capable of getting 7 boards. He's averaging about 6.8 per game, again, in this situation without all the guys that are going to be missing for the 76ers. So there is some logic to taking, but it's not enough of an edge. It's like right on the line there for me. It's basically a 50-50 bet that he's going to get the over 6.5. And I just think there's better options and ways to spend my money, including tomorrow on a massive slate there with 14 games on Saturday. But for the points for Kelly, I do expect him to be taking about 15 shots in this game. That's what he's been averaging when he's playing without these guys and when he's playing with with Tyrese Maxey and with Paul George. So he's going to be the third option, he and Yabu, but Yabu's going to have a terrible matchup with Jared Allen. He'll probably be pulling him from the basket. Another reason that Kelly rebounds would be a good play. Obviously, he's going to have some ability to get in there without Evan Mobley. And if Jared Allen is in fact guarding Yabu, which he should be, then that means Yabu is going to be pulling him to the 3-point line. Kelly Oubre is going to have the lane open. Tyrese Maxey is going to have the lane open. Anybody who wants to drive without Jared Allen down there is going to have a decent time doing so. So I like Kelly Oubre to get 14 points in this game on about 15 shots and to secure this bet for us. But that's all the time we have for you in player props. Definitely make sure to subscribe to that page. Don't miss the best bets episode we have up for you as well with some sides and totals looks. Until we see you next, happy betting.